You guys, I think I'm in love again. Everybody, welcome to a bonus episode of This Is My Bourbon podcast. This is the first bonus episode we've done in a while on the regular podcast feed. I'm super happy to do this. I'm your host, Perry. I got Curtis and Swan with me as well. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
What's up?
Curtis's usual sign-on. What's up, y'all?
What's up, guys?
So we're doing this because we had a couple of products that we wanted to review, but we had some other business we had to take care of this week. And I figured it was best to do this all at the same time because these are two new releases from two of our favorite distilleries. So we've got the Wilderness Trail Small Batch Rye Bourbon that's bottled in bond. And we also have the Four Roses Small Batch Select, which just came out. I'm really freaking excited about both of these products. You guys know that we've been fans of Wilderness Trail ever since their first batch of bourbon came out, the wheated bourbon. So, I have high hopes for this.
I have high hopes, and I've already nosed it. I'm just like, all right, let's just drink it already.
How different is that nose from their regular, or excuse me, their wheated bourbon? Oh, Swan jumped ahead.
Listen, I got excited. Oh my gosh, Perry. This is good.
Yeah.
This is really good. I don't want to influence.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
This is what craft distilleries should be making.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more.
Hands down, what they should be making. I need to go back for another sip before I say what I'm about to say.
I should probably nose it this time.
The nose is really interesting.
It is, and it's kind of mild for the amount of flavor that you get.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know what the rye content on this is.
It's on the side.
Good to know.
Oh, yeah, I read it.
24% rye.
Oh,
That's a high rye bourbon.
Very, yeah.
It shows.
You know what's...
It shows through on the palate, not necessarily on the nose.
I was about to say the same thing. When I nosed it, I was like, this isn't really the considerable like rye nose you get.
Yeah.
It's a little under the radar, but still significant.
It's a little citrusy on the nose, I would say.
You know what's crazy to me? This is so close to, a high rye bourbon that's close to 100 proof. You immediately think Wild Turkey 101, right?
Right.
This is so much more approachable. I mean, if somebody that, started drinking and Wild Turkey 101 was a little out of my wheelhouse when I was drinking the 80 proofs and stuff, this is
Including
approachable.
Curtis.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is what I want
Yeah.
in a rye bourbon. You know how I always, like on higher rye bourbons, I'm usually going, it's just a little, just a little off for me. It's a little too much spice, a little too much bitterness. This doesn't give me that.
All right. I'm going to say it. I was having a hard time comparing the two until right now because one was doing something very different from the other. But I think I like this better than New Riff.
I can see that. This is a lot more mellowed out.
I think I like it better than their bottled and bond bourbon. That being said, New Riff has really good single barrels. I've not had a bad single barrel from them yet, and their rye is phenomenal as well. But this is of a different caliber. I mean, really, truly, this is something highly unique. Also, they redid the cork on it, which I really like. The logo's on top now, so Looks cool.
This is great. I didn't pick up a bottle when I went to the distillery. I just got the one for the podcast. I'm seriously regretting that right now.
Danville's not too far away. And I'm sure that it's gonna be more widely available here soon too.
Oh, it is, yeah. And I remember when this first came out, the original mash bill that came out with the wheated, it was hard to find. I mean, like, I was literally looking for stores that kept it in stock. And then now it's like I walk into any Kroger Wine and Spirits or Total Wine, they've got this on the shelf, and including the rye, it's getting out there. Which I don't know how their distribution is outside of Kentucky, but inside Kentucky, when you visit, definitely pick up a bottle. It is well worth it. Any of their expressions. I've not been able to really pick apart anything wrong with any of them other than in a few years, they're going to be better, and I'm so excited for that.
Absolutely. I kind of wish that this had come out last year. And the only reason is because I would have easily called them the best craft distillery or best new craft distillery of 2018 had this been a part of their lineup at the time. And unfortunately, I can't add that into the mix in 2019 because they were producing and releasing stuff last year.
Sure, but here's where the like merit comes, I think.
Yeah.
And the true like kind of respect towards it is if they were to release this back a year ago, we would not feel the same about it, I don't think.
I think that's fair.
I think the fact that they were like, we're going to respect the bourbon and treat it to and release it when it absolutely needs to be.
Sure.
I think that's what the key is.
Here's a question. Do you guys like this better than the wheated bourbon?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do. I do. And it's in such a different category.
Yeah.
It's hard to really compare the two, which is great because there's so many distilleries that like, even Buffalo Trace, one that's so well known. You get a hold of some Blantons, and then you have some Rock Hill Farms right after, and you're like, I can tell these are in the same wheelhouse, you know? Everything from them, all three of the releases they've done, wildly different and all good in their own right.
Yeah, even their rye whiskey, I mean, is totally different from either of these bourbons they have out.
And it's a solid wheated bourbon too. Like I would
absolutely.
I think I'm gonna say it is too.
Yeah,
and that's like a big thing for me. I'm usually not.
Well, I mean, we've spent so much time hyping up the wheated bourbon that now that this is out, like, I mean, I kind of expected that we were gonna like it, but this is kind of on a different level from where I thought this was gonna go. And even for batch one,
they're doing something right.
They're doing something very right. We've been saying that about them from day one. So
I think they're definitely setting the standard for craft releases.
I think so too. And I think that between Wilderness Trail and New Riff, those are easily the two best craft distilleries and should really be the gold standard. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and it's making me even more excited for things like Castle and Key that are coming out with a bottle and bond up front.
Yeah.
And knowing that the craft releases that have come out over the years that have been bottled and bond are usually ones that we get excited over. So
I would definitely like for us to go ahead and do a formal review of this with our review system of nose, palate, finish, and price. It is a review system that uses 4 categories, of course. Each category is out of 5, and then we total everything up for a total score out of 20. And that's an indication of whether or not you should go and find this bourbon. Guys, what would you give the nose on this?
I think the nose is actually the weak point of this.
I have to agree.
I think I'm only going to give it a 3. And the only reason I'm giving it a 3, because I know that sometimes, like with our review system, it's kind of me knocking stuff down a peg. I just want it to be stronger.
Yeah.
Like, the notes are wonderful. Just hit me in the face a little more, you know? Like, I
think that's fair.
It's really great. And I think that could just be attributed to the proof. But there's so many rye bourbons that when I get the nose, it immediately hits me the second I, get close to the glass. This just isn't. Which, for somebody that's new, that's going to kind of raise your score a little bit because you don't want that punch. But for somebody that's kind of used to 110, 120, even 130 proof bourbons, like a lot of our listeners are, I got to assume that, a little bit more would be better.
I think I would have to give it I really enjoy this.
That's not a score. Close.
Give me a number here, Kurt.
I think I have to agree with a 3.
Yeah. I do too, for the record.
Yeah.
Just be honest.
Funny how that works. Yeah, I think a 3 just because that is the weaker point
Yeah.
of all of them, of all points put together. With that being said, I really enjoy it, and I'm more on the nose of higher rye bourbons that I don't necessarily want that super punch.
Sure. That's totally understandable.
So
I get that.
I feel like I'm putting it as a 3 as a default just because that's the weaker point. But I don't want to give it like a 4 because it's not completely where I want it to be. It's not wowing me. But it's just so good.
It's definitely still inviting. I think that it takes what really worked about the wheated bourbon and elevates it. So while I'm still maintaining some of those sweeter notes that I was finding on their wheated product, now I'm really finding darker notes as well. There's a dark flower that I'm finding, like a floralness that I cannot quite pick out. Maybe it's the rye. Maybe I'm really focusing on the rye on the nose. I'm not entirely sure. But there is a super dark note on the nose that I'm finding that I really, really enjoy. That being said, I do think that the palate is superior to the nose and takes it in a direction that the nose just doesn't quite indicate it's going to go in. So, like I said, I gave the nose a 3, but I gave the palate a 4.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I gave the palate a 4 as well.
I did too.
Man. All right. You all are making this easy on me.
Yeah, no, the palate is so good and it's so approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, it's dangerous. Like it's going to be easy to drink. And I think I didn't even think about this. They did a killer move putting this out right before Derby.
Oh, heck yeah.
This is going to be This is going to be one of, if anybody's like, well, what do you recommend for just sipping on or trying a mint julep or anything? I'm just Wilderness Trail rye bourbon.
Dude, the more that I go back to it, the more I'm getting like a molasses flavor.
I can definitely see that
as well. Like there's a really syrupy quality to it, and not like a watered down like market version. It's like a pure molasses sugary flavor to it.
You know what's interesting? They actually have a sorghum rum that they put out.
That's what it reminds me of sorghum. That's exactly what that is.
I've had that before. It is very hot, by the way, but it has got a bunch of good flavor to it. It reminds me of that a little bit. Mm-hmm. So whoever's, I guess, picking these barrels and deciding this is what they want to put out, maybe they're a little influenced by that. And it is not a bad thing at all.
It does overall kind of remind me of a rum.
A little bit, yeah.
I think that it has some rum qualities to it, for sure, especially in the sweetness of it. What'd you guys think about the finish, though?
It's there.
It's definitely there. I think if you had this first thing, I'd probably do it a little higher, so I've added a half point because I know that Kentucky Hug's there, but I've had a couple of things before this.
Sure.
I give it a 3.5.
Okay.
It's very solid. 100 proof is the great proof point for this. I mean, of course, if they wanted to put out a cask strength release, I'm going to be first in line, hopefully, at the distillery. Mm-hmm. But it's just an everyday sipper. This is great. And I think that the 100 proof actually does better with this release than it does with the wheated bourbon. I'd like to almost see the wheated bourbon at like a 105, 110.
Yeah.
Just as kind of a daily drinker. But this one at 100 is great. And I think it's that rye quality that kind of punches it up there just a little bit to kind of accommodate for the proof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going with the finishes of 4. I mean, it's just, it's there. It like kind of gives you that Kentucky hug. And I think I'm probably getting it a little more just because I haven't had the previous as much as what the previous ones we've tried. And I think it just has this really nice quality of an even burn. Not an even burn, but like it just slowly comes at you. And it doesn't immediate. It's not like full stop. There's something about it that just really is nice to me. So I think I'm going to give it 4.
I gave it a 4 as well. I really do enjoy that. Like what you're saying, that it isn't just an endpoint. It just continues on. And it really does make me want to go back for another drink. I think that's the important part of it. Like the hug is definitely there. The continuation of the flavors is there. That's where I'm really starting to pick up on some of the sugary flavors that I was kind of talking about a little bit on the palate. But I think that that's not a detriment to some of the darker notes that I'm also picking up on the palate as well. It's just it seems to blend so well together and just works so well to elevate this to a product that I think people are going to be talking about for a long time. I mean, really.
The distillery in general, man.
Oh, for sure.
It's going to be.
Yeah. And
it's a little bit of a game changer.
No kidding. Price was about $50. I gave it a 4.
Yeah, I went with a 4 too. And the funny thing about this is I worked in a liquor store, as some of people know that listen to the podcast. It's not super frequent, but I do. And every time I'm over there, I recommend their products. And immediately the first thing is they're like, well, I don't know if, 50 to 55 is kind of my price range. Then they try it and they come back.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I saw some guy came up to me today when I was working, and he told me, he said, I tried that last time. It was great. I came back and got the rye too. I don't even like ryes, but I wanted to try it.
Yeah.
And for, a new distillery to have that effect, that's insane. Because that's usually something like I invite somebody like, hey, you should really try Wild Turkey 101. They're like, that's kind of a party bourbon. I'm looking for something to sip on that's quality. Yeah. Then they kind of get into turkey. That's an established brand. Mm-hmm. To have something like Wilderness Trail at a slightly higher price point that you're kind of like, it's on that edge of, do I really want to spend that money? And then have people come back again is crazy.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worthy of a 4. I think the only thing keeping it from even going higher is just knowing that, the age is right at that 4-year mark. And there's some people that really define age and and kind of correlate that with price.
Yeah. See, for me, it's not about the age; it's just about the overall quality of it.
Yeah.
Like if I were just jumping over the moon, going, everybody has to have this. I'm going to buy a case a week or a month or whatever of it. Then it would be in the 5 range. It very well could get there. I mean. Could you imagine this at 8 years old?
I want to.
I want to.
I can't wait.
I want to.
I mean, at 8 years old, it would be. Oh man, it would absolutely blow us away.
Yeah, because I was thinking about, I was going like 3.5, but here's the like differential.
Yeah,
is I was kind of thinking like, okay, 3.5 because you sit there and you go, well, you got Henry McKenna. Wild Turkey, and you're going, those price points are like fairly, but then you go, oh, the size of the distillery, that like it being so young, that's a perfect price point. You know
what I think about to that point too? I think about this more like buying from a like a mom and pop shop.
Exactly. Or you're willing to pay more.
Exactly. Or like a locally owned thing. So it to me is more like shopping local than going to like Walmart or Target or whatever. This is, hey, grandma, grandpa have this little store down the road. It's a little bit more expensive to get a thing of apples, but
you're going to know the story. You're going to know the people. You're going to have an experience with this.
And
that's what really puts it to me as like 4.
Yeah.
Of like, yes, that's exactly what I want.
So you give it a 4 on the price.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Curtis, you and I gave it a 15 out of 20. Swan, you gave it a 14.5 out of 20.
Really close, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is easily a recommend from me. I just want to know what it's going to be like in a few years.
Dude, can you imagine?
Even batch 2, which will probably come out this year.
Yeah.
As soon as they say, hey, we've got batch 2 coming out, I'm going to say, I'll be there.
Yeah. And
maybe save me 2 or 3 bottles.
I know this is like off reaction, but like, man, imagine this at an 8-year point or like a 10-year point. Come on.
I'll be in line.
I will be too.
Sure. I'm just saying, like, let's remember when we're looking at like Henry McKenna, let's remember at us looking at like Heaven Hill Bottle and Bond. Let's remember us at that price point. We're going to be spoiled if it stays around 50.
Yeah, I think so too. I hope it does.
Yeah. That's what I'm meaning. It's like, we're spoiled if it comes, if they have these releases and it's like sitting even 70.
Yeah.
I'm assuming I can't predict into the future of, that, but based on the base product.
Well, I'm hoping that what happens is that they grow enough over the next 4 or 5 years to where they can afford to keep it at the $50 price point. I think that it makes sense should they consider or should they actually raise the price on this anymore. But if they are able to maintain the popularity, if they're able to maintain the quality over the next few years at this price point,
and grow the following.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that it's totally doable for them.
Yeah, this is quickly becoming one of those bourbons when people visit Kentucky, they're like, what should I grab? And it's always, for me, J.W. Dant, JTS Brown, just the local stuff that you don't get to see out of it.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, pick up Wilderness Trail.
Absolutely.
Please, because it's phenomenal. And their distribution is going to get better. The bourbon's going to get better. The tours are going to get even better, which, according to some of the people that were in our Facebook group, was already phenomenal.
Yeah.
I've not done the tour yet.
Yeah.
I need to.
I remember somebody mentioning that it was just amazing. And the fact that it's approachable too, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that does it for that portion of this episode, that portion of that review. We are about to move on, though, to a much more widely distributed distillery. Definitely not craft distilled. This is Four Roses Small Batch Select. This is their newest product, or the fourth rose, as they like to call it. Non-chill filtered, 104 proof, and a blend of 6 different recipes from Four Roses. It is the OBSV, OBSK, OBSF, OESV, OESK, and OESF. So basically taking 3 of the same yeast strains and both of their 2 different recipes and 6 individual bourbons becoming a part of that. So
I'm going to have to transition here. Like, I got to get my mindset on a different.
It's very different. It's a very different.
Because I don't want to be like trying to compare the two,
Oh, I don't want to either, because, we're going from. We're going from something that's going to be more nationally distributed.
Yes, exactly.
To really more local. But nonetheless, I'm still very excited for this.
Oh, super excited.
I had to watch people drink this yesterday.
That's unfortunate.
And I did not get to try it. And I really wanted to. But
I'm excited for the proof point, if I'm honest.
I am too.
Because they're notoriously more of a lower proof kind of bourbon. Like even their LE releases, which are just renowned, are typically a little bit lower proof. But this being a regular offering, I'm super excited.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. That's a regular offering?
This is going to be a regular offering. And
it's the fourth rose.
Yeah, and from what I heard, it's going to be
It's the most beautiful rose. I'm just joking.
It could be a little bit lax on distributing up until the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
And then they said it's going to be regular shelf tags out, put it on the shelf next to all the other products.
Okay.
What a change in noses.
It is.
We went from spice to baking notes.
Yeah, and it does have some spice, but it's more of like it's almost like you put an extra dash of some spice in your baking thing that you were making.
I'm getting a lot of cinnamon on the nose on this one.
You can definitely see it. This is like a really good banana bread.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Which is something that I kind of find pretty often with Four Roses is a banana bread note.
And I'm not disappointed by that at all. Banana bread's great.
Either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe just a hint of like brown sugar on there as well, on the nose.
Yeah, it does definitely have a sweetness, and of course it's got the stereotypical floral note from Four Roses. But I have to say, out of all the releases, this one has kind of a lesser floral note than some of the others.
The finish.
Very good. Well, the finish is really good as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really digging the finish.
You know what? This reminds me more of Elijah Craig than it does Four Roses.
I can definitely see that.
Jump on that.
It tastes more like a Heaven Hill product than it does Four Roses. Maybe it has to do with this blend that they've made, which I'm totally okay with. I just think that this is a little bit off profile for Four Roses, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not their traditional
No,
profile.
not
I
at
don't
all.
think. I think there's reminiscence of it.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm going to be honest, as somebody that's a really big Heaven Hill fan, I'm really liking this one.
This might be my favorite Four Roses product I've ever had. Aside from like single barrels.
The single barrel picks at cast strength are ridiculous. Some of them even rival the LEs, depending on what you get.
I think so too. But like in terms of their standard offerings, I think this is where it's at.
This is definitely
Really,
my favorite
truly.
Yep.
blended standard offering.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty key differential. Is the key like standard blended offering?
Yeah. I am left thinking a little bit more about this one though, in terms of like the complexity. Like I'm having a bit of a harder time picking out specific things just because it is so deep and so complex.
I think for me, it's just I need to spend more time with it.
Yeah.
A lot of bourbons were able to get a good peg on it. Like, oh, this is what we think. I think this one for me, I have to think about it.
I'm going to let it sit for a second so that my palate has a minute to rest and so I can drink a little bit of water as well. Because, I mean, we did basically go right from one to the other. My initial reaction with this, though, is I've not had a Four Roses product that is like this, period. And I think that they have found something that, again, could very well elevate them in a way that they might not be expecting. And I'm not trying to overhype it or oversell it or anything, but this is really good.
I had a little bit of water to mine. I am drinking water still. It's just in the bourbon. It's
Well.
fine.
Hey, bourbon has water in it in general.
Man, that nose really calmed down.
With some water?
Yeah. And this is coming in at 104, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's a blend of 6 and 7 year old bourbons. What did it do to the palate there, Swan?
It really made it taste like the regular small batch.
Interesting.
It's got a little bit more oak than the small batch. And let me go back in.
Let me dive back in real quick.
Swan's going back into the pond, guys. Yeah, it's definitely got a little bit more oak. There's a little bit more of a heat element to it. It didn't really drop a whole lot of the heat, even dropping down, because I put quite a bit of water in it. This is probably closer to like 80, 85. But it is really good. I think I would... There's a lot of bourbons I have that, like, when I put water in it almost feels fractured. Like, there was really not the intention to put water in this. They want you to have it at cast strength. This one, I could tell that they're comfortable with you putting some water in it because they put some thought into what it would be like if you put some ice cubes or if you chilled it maybe, or even just put a couple of drops of water in like I just did.
I can imagine that this would be really good in a bourbon forward cocktail.
Yes, I think it would be phenomenal in one of those.
And I'm not using that as a cop out either, because I think that as it stands, it has some really good, interesting flavors to it.
Yeah, and I think my go-to right now for bourbon cocktails, because I've actually been doing a few more of those at home, not too many, but it's actually been the Old Forester Rye.
Yeah,
I think this one would be a very good, not super rye heavy bourbon to actually use for one of those cocktails, because it does have some rye recipes in it and it comes across, but it's not very strong.
I really would have been fooled into thinking that this was a Heaven Hill product. Honestly, if I didn't know that it was a Four Roses. It's just so similar.
I like it. I'm definitely getting a bottle of that.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to get another bottle of it as soon as I'm out.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Which I've not said a whole lot about Four Roses before. And I think that we don't, on the show, give enough praise to Four Roses.
We don't. And I think a lot of it is that the small batch is good and it's a good introduction bourbon. When you move on, there's really not a whole lot past the introduction phase where you're just super proud to show them off until you find a good cask strength single barrel release. They found the middle ground, and it's good.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think they're filling the market, like filling the void that they definitely need. For like lack of a better term, and it's kind of punny and cliche, but they really did find the fourth rose.
I think they did. Absolutely. I think this is what they needed to complete that circle.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Cheers to Brent Elliott and his team. I mean, this is an exquisite offering from Four Roses that I think could probably win even the biggest skeptic of Four Roses over.
Oh, no doubt.
You know, I think that this offers so much from all different sides of the spectrum of bourbon that could hook people in.
Yeah.
And
funny that it's right before the Derby. Race for the roses.
Again.
Yeah, there's a few more than 4 on that one, but I definitely agree it's going to be a Derby bourbon.
Yeah.
All right, let's put this one through the ringer as well. So nose, palate, finish, and price. What'd you guys give the nose?
I went surprisingly high with this one. I really liked it. I went with a 4.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so you kind of pointed out that this is more of a Heaven Hill product as far as just the way that it drinks. I'm a huge Heaven Hill fan.
Yeah.
This is good. It's got some that kind of Elijah Craig reminiscent with getting up into the proof a little bit, more than 94. You got a whole 10 points more. And I think it's just a if not perfect, a really good middle ground for their products. And the fact that it's going to be regularly available is phenomenal. I mean, right now it's behind the counter at most places, but this is going to be right next to their small batch.
It'll be on the shelf in like a month or two, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait for it. Non-chilled filter too. I don't think we mentioned that.
I don't think we did either.
Yeah, so that's another thing because it could just be a placebo thing, seeing that on there and thinking immediately you get some more of that kind of fatty, oily content to it. But
I get that though.
But
I really
definitely
do find that.
it comes through. Yeah, so I'm a big fan.
I think I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Curtis, you and I are on the same page today.
All right. Well, sounds good. I mean, the nose has that baking spice, and there's just something so great about that, and I really enjoy that. I guess there's a few things that I kind of want. I might want a little more of a kind of a punch, just a little more of an oomph for it. But it's overall so solid.
Yeah, I think that the nose is definitely very inviting. I just think that it really is kind of missing just a little bit that would make me want to go a step further into it. That being said, it is definitely not bad. I just want a little teeny tiny bit more from it. Which, again, as good as I think this bourbon is, I actually gave the palate the same score. I gave it a 3.5. Did you as well?
I gave it a 3.5.
Yeah.
We're on the same page
All
today.
right.
I gave it a 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. You like the nose better than you did the palate.
I did substantially.
Let me go first on the finish.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so I gave it a 3 just because I thought that I could pick apart more of what was on the nose. Like I got more of the baking spices, and then when I got it on the palate, it's kind of it definitely blended all together. And if we're going for nuance and that kind of thing, it seemed like it was more homogeneous than just spread out. I can pick apart the notes, but that's a personal preference. And I have that problem with Heaven Hill too, because some of them I really start picking apart stuff on the finish as opposed to the palate. Maybe that's just like how I like to drink. So that's perfectly fine, I guess. It's just different for everyone.
Yeah.
That is really interesting because what'd you give it?
A 3.
3. See, I gave it a 3.5, but I understand where you're coming from.
Oh, I do too.
Like it does have a homogenous kind of.
I don't want to give it one note, but it's getting
not.
there. Yeah. It's a step towards that.
See, I don't take it as a one note thing. The way that I'm viewing it as wait, what am I trying to say? The way that I am viewing it is as, that's what I was trying to get. Everything is working really well together. Like it's all commingling in a way that I'm having trouble picking out one note or two notes or three notes. Again, not to the detriment of its overall quality. It's just, it's all very, it's kind of smushed together.
I think they're just similar notes.
I think that's fair.
There's no super outlier.
I think that's
that we're
fair.
searching, we're looking for. Maybe.
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yeah,
you're kind of looking for?
where
It's
I'm
you want
leaning.
something that is whoa. That's where to.
Because I think too and this could just be hearing the comparison that was made between Elijah Craig and this. At least with Elijah Craig, I get that kind of on the palate too, where you have a good solid 1 to 2 notes, or even 4 or 5 that all blend together as one good one, and then when the finish hits, that's when you break it apart. For me, anyways. And I maybe that's just the way I prefer to drink. So it is definitely good. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the flavor, but when I have a Booker's or something like that, I swear every time I go back to that, I can find a different note, or I can pick it apart, or I can point at something that was this time I got distinctly this. With this one, it's kind of the same. All 3 sips I took were relatively the same. None of which were bad, but just kind of want to pick it apart more.
Yeah. So the finish?
Go ahead.
See, the finish for me, it's just it falls short. It kind of hits the back of the throat, but then doesn't follow all the way down through the chest. So for that, I think I'm going to give it a 3. I've leaned toward a 2.5, to be honest. And I think I might give it a 2.5. We didn't hit the same?
I definitely didn't hit the same.
That's sad.
I gave it a 3.
3. I was leaning towards it, but I think
it's fine. I see where you're coming from. It does fall just a hair short of what it could be. But I am still, through the finish, enjoying what I did on the palate. It just doesn't take it anywhere else.
Yeah.
I
think I'm going to stick with my 2.5.
I think that's fine.
Just because off the palate, I get all the kind of things I want, and then it just, for me anyway, it gets a stop. Yeah. It gets to the back of the throat, and then just goes, all right, I'm done. And I think that's where I'm sitting there going 2.5.
Yeah.
With that being said, I really do enjoy the finish.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think that kind of sets me off a little bit, is it just stops.
Yeah.
I gave it a 4.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really liked it. I mean, I see where you guys are coming from. It's a little short, but it is such a good finish. I pick apart the notes on the finish, just like I said on the palate, and I like that a lot because we mentioned that baking spices you get on that, and I don't get that a ton on the palate. As soon as it hits the finish, it's right there. It is a little bit shorter. I think one of the reasons I'm probably giving it a 4, and it could be a 3.5, honestly, is just this is exactly what Four Roses was missing. Every time I go back to the small batch, the finish is almost non-existent.
Yeah, that's fair.
The single barrel, even at 100 proof, when they just do the regular single barrel offering that's not a pick, still missing it. 4 more proof points, I'm getting a ton more of it. This is exactly what I wanted from Four Roses. I'm going to stick with my 4. I think
that's fine.
Really big fan of this. So
price is about $60. All things considered, I give it like a 3.5. I think that this, again, is what we've been looking for in Four Roses. But in terms of like overall quality, it may not be exactly where we want it to be. Meaning that it's more than middle of the road, but it's less than ideal. So 3.5 for me is where I sat with that.
all right, 4. I gave it a 4. I just think it's solid. I mean, like you said, it's everything that Four Roses is missing. It's the 4th rose. It's. I think at $55 to $60, this is very good. This is another one I'm going to point out on the shelf, especially when somebody's kind of hit that intermediary level where they really want something that's a step up and not quite cast strength.
Sure.
This is going to be a solid recommend for me.
Yeah.
If you're looking for 100 proof or anything under 110, really, this is great. I used to honestly point at Willet for this.
The pot still?
No, not the pot still. The Noah's Mill in particular.
Oh, okay.
And for that, I don't know if my palate's changed or the bourbon's changed, one of the two, but this is going to be kind of my replacement for that slightly over 100 proof bourbon. And I think Willet comes in close to 115. And I used to recommend the Willet and the Old Forester Prohibition and stuff in that range. But yeah, 104, this one's knocking it out of the park for me.
I'm going to go with 3.5 because it is very much that 4th rose we're looking for, and that it really fills that void of like, I just want something just a little bit more. And I think that this really brings together a very nice nose, a very nice palate, has that bacon spice. I get the bacon spice a little bit on the palate itself.
Yeah.
So overall, I think the price is a pretty solid price on what we're getting with this.
Curtis, you and I were only off by 0.5 on our scores. I gave it a 13.5. You gave it a 13. Swan actually gave it a 15.
Gave it a 15, yeah.
So I still think that this is a recommend. I really am totally not opposed to this bourbon being on a shelf, on a back bar, whatever. This, I think, should find a place in your home bar. I think that this, even at this proof point, this price point as well, I could maybe see myself ordering a pour of this when I go out. You know?
So here's a question. On your bar, your home bar, what would you put it over?
What would I put it over?
Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to the store and you say, I have room for one of these bourbons.
You know what I think is a really good comparison to this? You've got Stag Junior and you've got Stag. Then you've got this and Four Roses LE. This is the Stag Junior. It's the kind of the baby to it.
I could see that.
It's a little bit less refined. It's higher in proof. I would honestly take this over some batches of Stag Junior.
I think so too.
I'd agree.
Yeah, I mean, and that for anybody that loves the over 120 proof that Stag Junior offers, that's great. But as far as just being refined and more approachable and something that you can sip without thinking, man, this is like physically hurting me. This is kind of a go-to for me. So I'd put it over that, and that's saying a lot because there's people that wait in line for Stag Junior, and this is going to be on the shelf.
This is going to be important, I think. Much like the Wilderness Trail is, this will be a significant point for Four Roses moving forward. And I'm excited to see what that point is. I don't know exactly where that's going to go in the future just now, but this is a very solid offering from a widely distributed company. So, yeah, that about does it for this bonus episode. Where can people find you all on social media?
On Instagram, you can find me at KurtCon. On Twitter, Kurt_Con15.
I'm only on Instagram, working on that. It's at the Bourbon Finder.
Maybe soon that's going to change?
Maybe soon. I've got some people interested in more of a Facebook draw, so
okay,
might be expanding a little bit.
We're going to talk about that too, yeah. I am at PureRaider1492 on all social media. If you want to follow up with the show, we are at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Give us a 5-star rate and review on iTunes. We will definitely be reading out some reviews on air. If you would like to do that, leave us a kind note. We would be happy to indulge you in talking about why you think this show is so good. Or not. Whatever you write, we'll talk about it on air. Just leave a 5-star review. It really does help people find this show. You can head to bourbonshop.threadless.com to find all of our apparel and merch. Again, we have a free shipping offer going on. Just use the code FreeShipBC19 and you will be able to get free shipping on all orders over $45. I do a live stream every Thursday night on youtube.com/thisismybourbonpodcast. It's a lot of fun. I usually do some kind of off-the-wall topics. Last night, I did a review of the brand new cast strength Pinhook bourbon, which I don't know how it turned out because I'm kind of talking about this in the past or future. I don't know yet. Patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast is where you can become a patron of the show for as little as $1 a month. It really does help us out. You get awesome things like bonus episodes every month just for Patreon. We're starting to do some live streams just for that group. We have a really fun community as well hanging out there. Again, that's patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast for as little as $1 a month. We will see you on the next bonus episode and next week on the regular episode. But until then, I'm Perry.
I'm Curtis.
I'm Swan.
And this is My Bourbon Podcast bonus episode. Bye, y'all.